Welcome everyone to our first event celebrating the new Elementor Community Hub, which was launched officially today. My name is Tali Vasilevsky, and I'm leading the Meetups program at Elementor. Before we kick off this performance talk with Shiloh and Josh, we would like to share with you what the hub is all about. For this, I have here a short introduction from Verdi. Let me know if you don't hear.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Verdi Heinz, and I'm an Elementor community evangelist. Although our community members can be found on many different social channels, a very active one is Facebook. In fact, our community has grown so big. You deserve a new home, better suited for your needs. One where you can quickly and easily find answers to your questions from other Elementor users based on their experience. At your new home, you can get the latest Elementor news and updates. You'll see sneak peeks found nowhere else, and you can meet up with other community members both digitally and physically. We've been listening and gathering your feedback for over 3 years now, and we are very excited to take the next big step, and it's called Elementor Hub. Let me give you a quick tour. In the top bar, you'll find product updates for both current and upcoming releases. Every post there allows you to ask our developers anything that's on your mind. Next to that is the Meetups area. Go there to find other web creators just like you. Join topic or location-based meetups according to your needs. Once you're in your new home, you have 3 main rooms to choose from. Welcome to the community, Elementor Basics, and Advanced Rooms. The first room is Welcome to the Community. This is where you can introduce yourself and even leave a link to your website. I hear it's good for your SEO. The next room is Elementor Basics. Here you'll find out how to get started with Elementor and how to easily fix common issues. You're also welcome at the water cooler to talk about any topic you like. Last but not least, we have the Advanced Rooms, where community members help each other level up their knowledge and share their experiences across a wide range of topics. You can learn how to make a living in the business room, discover the latest design trends, find development tips, increase your marketing skills, and even learn how to best optimize your website. Oh, and advanced users, they get a water cooler too. So as you can see, Elementor Hub has something special to offer for every web creator. And if you feel something should be added, just let us know. I invite all of you to be part of it. So see you at your new home, Elementor Hub.
Officially, welcome to the future of performance with Elementor. I am Angela Bowman. I'm a web developer and Elementor community leader in Boulder, Colorado. I'm also the co-host of the Women in WP podcast. Today, we're hosting Josh Marome, who's a senior web developer in Elementor's editor team. He joined Elementor 5 years ago and has since played a key role in the development of many of the features we all use every day. And he is leading research and technical innovation on the editor team. We also have Shiloh Ishimani, who is the editor product lead. He joined Elementor 3 years ago and is responsible for making sure the Elementor editor will keep evolving, including future releases and any value added to the product itself. So today we are going to speak about performance optimization within recent versions of Elementor and upcoming improvements that will level up Elementor-based websites' performance. If you have questions during the talk, please drop them in the QA chat. So the QA is a different chat than the other chat. It's on the far right part of your screen. And we will address them and fit them in where we can. And we will also have time afterwards for questions. So to kick off this conversation, I'm going to ask, first of all, why is performance such a hot topic?
So I'll take this one.
Yeah, Josh.
So basically, I think performance is a very important topic, first and foremost, because performance is probably one of the most important foundations for user experience in general, and I think user experience is something we should really be focusing on when we talk about performance, because it's hard to get lost in all the detail and all the metrics and all the way we measure performance. But really, at the end of the day, our real goal is to make our website, more accessible, load faster, and make our users have a better experience, help our users have a better experience. So performance is basically a user experience factor. And this is why it is important. Recently, Google have been promoting this the importance of performance and page speed for a long time now. I think first time I did page speed optimization must have been like 7 or 8 years ago, I think, and it's become more and more important since, which is a little counterintuitive. You would expect that with fast internet connection everywhere and everyone's got fiber and all this, you might worry about this a little less. But on the other hand, we're using the internet so much nowadays, and we're using it on our mobile devices, and we're using it everywhere. So really, connectivity is still an issue in many cases when we connect to the internet, and we want to make sure that everyone who wants to access our website is going to have a good time, and it's going to come easy. So recently, Google has made it official that good performing websites are going to also have some SEO benefits. I think we should take it with a grain of salt. Not all websites necessarily are gonna have the same impact. It's not gonna affect so many websites equally, but I think that's why it's become more of an important issue for many people, and the entire industry, including browsers. When Google makes something important, everyone follows. So browsers are now making it easier for developers to make websites more performant, and people who build websites care about it a lot. And us, we're also a part of this cycle, and we're also doing the best we can to make it happen. So I guess that's kind of what brings us here.
So in a nutshell, because Google cares, but more importantly, because
I
your
think that's
visitors, your visitors to your site care. Yeah.
I think the real reason is user experience.
Yeah.
But I think Google
Yes.
stepping in kind of forces us to forces us to take care of this,
So in light of that, we want to make Google happy, but we also want to make our users happy. And
maybe the other way around.
That's Google's hope, is that we make our users happy. And so what steps is Elementor taking to improve performance on the websites? And what is your approach to that? What's your kind of philosophy about that?
I'll take that one. So I think that when building a website, there is more than just dragging, dropping elements and just designing your page, right? It's not something that is that simple. You have to have a basic understanding of how web works and what is good for the user and what is bad for him. So for example, if I create a web page and a lousy hosting provider and I'm using a massive amount of divs and the bloated DOM and load a lot of external libraries, of course that my web page will load slow. But there are 3 aspects that we need to focus on when talking about performance of websites. And I think those 3 aspects are the main 3 aspects that we focused on when we started to touch or proceeded touching on and performance of our clients' websites, which is something that is top priority for us. And I think that is progressing since version 3. Although it's a bad name that it has, but we had some improvements there. And I'd like to mention the 3 aspects that we are touching, because as I mentioned, most of the sites have a good infrastructure, but lousy implementation, for example. So when talking about it, the first thing that has to be perfect and has the most impact on the performance is the server and the site itself. if you load your website over a proper hosting provider that is serving a good response rate, and you load your images using CDN or other aspects of assets that you use. If if you use caching using your browser, your site generation and site setup, all of those make the serving of the site much faster and much more reliant. So this is something that is worth the efforts of, it's one of the key important things that makes your site faster. The other one, and most of the web creators take less consideration of it, is the user responsibility. Most of our users know how to build their websites and know how to build them professionally, but there are some users who don't know how web works and don't know what is the best practice for them. It means loading and uploading big full-sized image sizes. It means non-optimized images. It means breaking the layout to intersections, using intersections, and it causes too complex DOM, and it impacts the performance factors. And this, by the way, if you want to learn more about the performance improvement made by layout system, we had an amazing webinar. I don't remember, maybe it's Ziv or don't recall.
I think it was Ziv, yeah.
Or Ash. Ash made this. Ash made this tutorial. I urge you all to see it and visit it. It's a must-have, must-see thing. More things that you can do to improve your actions and your responsibility is to load things using lazy load if possible. It improves your loading speed. It improves your non-bloated elements on your page or assets on your page, and it's something that is very important. The last one that is, I think, is most important in our context is the website builder responsibility. As I mentioned, 3 vectors. The first one is site and server. The second one is user responsibility, and the last one is the web builder. And website builder can be Elementor or any other page builder, can help you simplify the work of creating your website. And it's when you create a modern web page, it loads only what you need, and it creates better DOM output, and it loads only what the assets that you used on your page. Those are the main vectors of creating a good performing website or page that you created. I think all of this aspects, we touched and talked about them in this tutorial that I mentioned prior to this one. And we also created a new doc, a new developers doc that dives into the details and its and grits of what we did since version 3. It's extremely important. I ask you to see it. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah, and I think those 3 points are really well taken, because you want your hosting to be in a good neighborhood. You want your site to be living in a good neighborhood. So you have the fastest possible start from the beginning. You can't fix a broken foundation, right? And that's kind of out of people's control.
I think in many cases people maybe might feel like, maybe I want to save a little on hosting.
Yes.
But then they end up spending so much time on optimizing all those little things, hoping to get better performance.
Yeah.
When they could have actually, gotten a lot more value for their
buck. I think that we earlier saw a circular graph of what composes the Google PageSpeed score, and one of them is time to first byte or contentful paint or any other items. And the server is one of the most influential things that influences the score. So it's something
that has been my experience too. The most important performance thing I've ever done is just switching web hosts.
But we're not, just to mention, we're not removing our responsibility from creating. We are one of the vectors of creating the best performing website. Yeah. So
yeah, and users creating more efficient layouts. You can't just do whatever you want in Elementor and expect it to perform well. You do have to be super mindful about how you're creating those layouts. And I'm so glad we have some good resources on that. So let's dive into the builder responsibility. In other words, Elementor's responsibility and the role you're taking. So what is Elementor as the editor, you two heavily involved in how the editor is being designed and programmed, doing specifically to address some of these performance issues around Elementor itself? And I had one example, and is that, let's say I go to analyze a page with a page speed testing tool, and I notice some JavaScript files or CSS files loading that aren't even being related to anything I'm loading on that page, such as Swiper.js. So it's like, I have no control of that as the developer of the site. I can't stop these things from loading extraneously on my pages. That's just one example, but I know that you've been addressing many things, and I'd love to hear about what specifically you're doing to improve that performance.
So that's a great question, and this is one of the main focus that we made, as I mentioned, just since version 3, to improve the stability and the performance of Elementor generated pages. I can list 5 tracks that we made, that we listed for ourselves to improve them. And I think Elementor from version to version is improving in ways that I myself am surprised. Just now, I talked with the developer that's working on version 3.4, and another version that is extremely important, and the results are amazing in terms of what we load and what we haven't loaded. So let's talk about the tracks that we want to focus on, and how we can rely on Elementor to keep providing you the tool that you need to create websites and create them perfectly. So the first track, and the most, in my terms, is one of the most important of them, is load only what you need. Elementor, up until version 3, I think, was loading massive amount of codes. Massive is a big word, but
it was
it
liberal.
Loaded,
we were a little liberal about what we load.
The concept of loading was load everything and instantly generate everything on the page. And since unused CSS and unused JavaScript files and assets are harming the performance of the web page, we want to reduce this one. So since version 3.1, we started to introducing an experiment called Improve the Asset Load, which started to change the way Elementor loads its assets. Assets mean JavaScript files of widgets. All of the widget functionality was loaded by default. And when activating this experiment, by the way, if you don't know this term, is something that we introduced in version 3.1 that allows us to release feature flags. We can release a feature and you can deactivate it and activate it. It's something that is very useful. Most of them, you have status by each of them and every one of them. You can know what is more stable and what is less. And we will keep on emphasizing it later on in the next releases. But back to our track of load only what you need. When loading widgets, you only get the widgets JavaScript files. In version 3.2, we introduced another implementation of only load what you need in core and pro versions. And in version 3.3, that just was released last week, we released a CSS, conditional CSS loading that improves the way Elementor loads its assets in terms of CSS files, which is a vector. And when you perform a lighthouse test, you can see that you have unused CSS. So this one is resolved, and most of it resolved, and we keep on improving it. Okay, so it's something that we have worked on.
Going back to Swiper.
Yeah.
So Swiper is not loading anymore. It used to load on every page.
Exactly. A Swiper used to load in version 3.2, and now it loads only if you have carousel on your page, or you have gallery that needs carousel using the lightbox. By the way, lightbox, share links, more and more assets are loaded only when needed.
I think the reason why we used to load Swiper across the board is because it's so commonly used by many features. So you have background slideshows and stuff like that. It was hard to kind of isolate the cases where it's required. But
Yeah.
we have done that now, and now you're not going to have swiper loaded where it's not required.
Not swiper, or
Just as an
hopefully
example.
none of the libraries, external libraries that used to load wherever you load the page on front end. The second track that I want to talk about is when using, currently we're using JavaScript and CSS libraries such as Animate CSS or Waypoints. Those are libraries that allow users to load it, and improve, allow several functionalities. And I think and I know that the second vector that we talked about is the reduction of the use of these JavaScript and CSS libraries and leveraging native browser capabilities. I think Josh maybe can explain better than me.
Yeah, because I think I was going to ask, what's a real world example that people could relate to about what you've been loading in the past, but now the browsers are supporting.
Right. So this is a very important vector because browsers, like I said before, are becoming much more efficient at doing all sorts of things that used to be only possible using JavaScript, and some libraries that help us do those things. And one example is scroll detection. When you want to have a feature initiated when only once the widget is scrolled into the view. A great example is animated headline. So that widget basically has the option to animate the headline just once. So we don't want it to animate once before it's in the view. If you have an animated headline at the middle of your page, we don't want it to animate when you loaded the page and then nobody sees that, right? We want to make sure that it only animates once it gets into the view. That's something that used to be done using an external library called Waypoints, and now it's possible to detect this this event of scrolled into view using a native scroll observer, which is a native browser capability. So that's and another good example is just simply lazy loading. So we used to do some image lazy loading in some places using scroll detection. So only once the widget is in the view, only then do we load the image. Now it's something that's possible to do.
It's integrated natively.
Right, it's integrated natively in the browser. So this is actually a comforting, I think, message that the browser is also, the browser makers are also helping us here, right? So we have like a combined effort, of all parties involved.
So for these two tracks, because I know we're going to move on to a couple more. So for the first one, load only what you need. Is that something that people need to turn on under Elementor Tools Experiments, or is that just on by default?
For existing sites, it's on by default. For existing sites, it's turned off because we don't want to harm any one of the websites of our clients. And for new sites that you start a fresh install, you get it pre-activated. It's something that we made in order to prevent any breaks or any changes in the light of our responsibility for our users.
It's a lesson we learned from version 3. We want to make sure that when we ship you new things, new shiny things,
you can switch them off.
Your website is not gonna break, So
probably if people want to try that out, the load only what you need under the tools experiments, which probably has a more technical name there, that they may create a staging or a copy of their site, turn it on and see what happens before they turn that on. Right. And they could always turn it off too. They could turn it on, if they're daring people.
We call it
opt-in,
opt-in, opt-in.
Yeah, opt-in, opt-out. And then the second track, the reducing of these libraries, is that also an experiment, or is that just happened?
The inline CSS, you mean?
No, the one where you're using the native browser stuff.
So it's not something that it was fully implemented. It's something that is futuristic. When it will be implemented,
some of it has been. Some of it has already been implemented.
But as a user, I don't have to take an action. Okay, without an experiment. That was my point.
Under the hood improvements that we made.
Okay. So some as a user, I need to take responsibility for implementing under the experiments. Others are just going to happen automatically. So, people do a lot of these page speed tests, and they often see this warning about render blocking assets. And it's like, what do I do about that? Like Google fonts and different CSS files. And it always seems to me like I have no idea how to improve this. What are you planning to do about that?
Right. So that's basically track 3. So now with is this one? Yeah. So with new CSS and with new JavaScript, with the new JavaScript standard, you can basically write less code and basically deliver the same amount of functionality using less code, or do things in a more cost-effective way. So one thing we're doing is we're basically making sure that we use the most recent stable way of writing CSS and the most recent and stable way of writing JavaScript. So you won't have as much code responsible for doing the same thing. But really, I think when we're talking about render blocking, there's also a lot of things that we're actually working on right now that have we shipped I don't know if we've shipped that yet. Have we shipped some of it yet?
We shipped option to, for example, there are several render blocking assets such as Google fonts. Right. And we added an option to change the way it loads.
Right. So that used to not even be supported. Yeah. Right. So the Google fonts used to not support display swap, and now it's so we're taking advantage of that option. But really, there's a lot more to come. I think version 3.4 is going to introduce some major improvements in that field. We're going to have CSS and JavaScript, particularly CSS, that's going to be only printed.
No, it's already out there in 3.3. Yeah.
Okay.
We released it, and when loading CSS files, as Josh mentioned, sometimes those assets are being render blocking, which means, if you can explain it better than me.
Basically, it means whenever the browser sees a link tag that loads a CSS file, that's right away a marker for the browser that this asset is a must load asset for this page, and that means another network request. So on the new versions, we're going to have CSS that used to be loaded as an additional request included inline inside the page, rather than having it as a separate asset.
I want to cycle back to the way all of these tracks that we talk about originated from a concept that we made. The concept was, up until today, we load on the first page load or in every page load, we get all of the assets that you need and render them on your web page. What we did in this version, in 3.3 and prior to it in 3.2 and 3.1, we on the save action, when you save your page, we run through all of the assets needed and register them throughout your in your page. And when the user visits the page, the visitor visits your page, it only gets what was written in the save process. So we save the process of going to the server, asking what you need and bringing it back. So it's something that that you have here. And by in this track that we spoke about is just the render blocking improvement that we made in this version, and in the font awesome improvement, and in this library that we included that loads it better without render blocking asset as a render blocking asset, and
right,
Google Fonts.
Icons are a big one, actually.
Yeah.
So icons, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Font Awesome. So Font Awesome is basically a font, right, of many icons. And so that's one file, but really it's more than just one file, because there are a few versions of Font Awesome. There are a few categories of fonts. So there's that. And then there is a CSS file that follows that kind of gives you all the classes and what character represents that font, that icon. So that's a lot of render blocking assets, right? The fonts are render blocking, and the CSS is render blocking. So that might actually add up to, like, I think 6.
A lot.
Yeah, like 6 assets, 6 files that have to be loaded, and via network request. And
before the largest contentful paint can happen. It's really
right.
The above the fold. You really want just the stuff you need for above the fold to load.
Right.
And then load other things that you need. So I'm gonna
now you're gonna have the icon embedded in your page. You're not gonna
yet,
have,
but yeah,
right, but it's coming up.
It's coming up in Dev Edition. You can see it. You can already see it in Dev Edition as an experiment. Visit it and try it. What's Dev Edition, you ask?
Yeah.
Dev Edition. Dev Edition is something that we're also, again, going back to version 3, we had to do some homework and learn what went wrong. And one of the things that we noticed is when releasing a version and when working on a version, most of the code and the features just lie there several months until released. And the dev version is just nightly builds that you can get every day, from day to day, and you see the improvement and progress that Elementor does, and test out new features and influence the behavior and how it looks and how it feels, and how you interact with them even. So it's something that is most powerful tool. We have over 20,000 active installs for this plugin, and it's basically what it does. It just brings you the latest version of Elementor and Elementor Pro. So if you want to use it, of course, use it, but use it on a staging environment only. It's something that is not that safe because it's a dev edition. It's a nightly build that goes every night. Okay, so be sure to back up your sites if you're using it and using on staging. I think there are more aspects that we handled.
Yeah, there are two more things I think we can mention. One is, I'll mention it briefly because we're kind of running out of time. So real quick, when we serve a web page built with Elementor, we're basically taking all the settings the user put in the panel, all those settings that you put when you're making the button a little bigger and this color for that font and that whatever. So we're taking all of this and we're kind of rendering the CSS that represents all this, all of those settings. And it used to be something that happens every single time the page is rendered. So we've recently taken that aspect and we've completely optimized it so that this doesn't need to happen every single time. So basically we're doing it once, and then we're only going to do it again if you make any changes to your page. Otherwise, we're going to use the rendered result. It's kind of a cached result that's saved to the database. So that cut the server load to, I think, by 40% or something really. It was really significant. We've seen like a very significant improve by doing this, just this change, and we're gonna follow up on that with further optimizations to this process. We're looking into more ways to kind of minimize the amount of work the server needs to do in order to serve you an Elementor page. So that's a big one. And another one is slimmer and better code output. So we're working on ways to minimize the amount of markup, the amount of DOM that's required for to represent a given element widget. So that's something I think most users are familiar with.
Yeah,
and
we have an experiment called improved DOM output. You can use to reduce roughly 20% of the DOM output in your page. Don't grab me by the number because we reduced several items, and it's based on your usage of columns and sections and widgets. And we keep on working on this. And I can share with you that we are working on a new concept of more improved and advanced composition system, or layout system, if you call it, which would be much slimmer and lighter. And I think and when mentioning the previous vector, we have also something coming up, and which will include a basic improvement, which is the additional breakpoints. That is much awaited feature, something that we haven't done until now, because we knew that if we would implement additional breakpoints as it is in the system,
as it was implemented previously, right? So it used to be the way we saved response to the settings used to be like duplicating the setting. You know, it's like every device you're saving it for is another setting.
And even if you haven't saved it,
right,
you had 3 controls for each control that you created in your page or saved. And the improvement was, if we were adding more and more breakpoints, 7 breakpoints, for example, we're getting an increase in the CPU, an increase in the memory usage, increase in the traffic that created when entering the editor. And all of these impacts the editor work time and impacts the web page performance. And this is something that we said no. If we want to release this feature, we have to do it perfectly. And after I can share that after a long period of work and optimization and improvements, we saw an improvement when activating the next experiment that will be released, already released in Dev Edition and will be released in 3.4 soon. We saw a 23% improve on the page loading time, the server loading time, especially when talking about it. So it's something that we are working on. It's on our focus, and it's something that we keep working on every day that we are here.
Yeah, and as far as the DOM optimization goes, so there is the track that Shiloh mentioned of, the experiment, which is basically taking the existing features, the existing widgets, and making them a little slimmer by cutting down another element or a little bit of code in the front, which adds up to a lot when you have many elements. But there is also, like Shiloh said, the more experimental stuff that we're working on that could drastically change that. That would literally kind of different ball game. But that's yet to come. I'm just mentioning it so we're working on future things too.
To wrap up this section, it sounds like one is that if you want to take advantage of some of these improvements, definitely visit your Elementor Tools Experiments tab, correct? Check those, test them on a staging site, do some before and after tests, to see. I've definitely seen the 20% plus improvement in the DOM output. I have seen definite speed increases. Is there, before I get on to the questions, and I'll also say by wrapping up that it sounds like you're very aware of the things that are slowing down Elementor, and you're very much tackling each one very systematically, correct? It's like, we know what's happening here and exactly how the browser's doing this, and we're going to try to help the browser and the server serve these things up as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And there has been room for improvement. You've made those improvements. There's room for a little bit more improvement. You're going to make those improvements. When can people expect Elementor 3.4? And I'm going to wrap this into a couple questions that lead to the future. One is, you have some other improvements you want to do in the future, but how do you see yourself playing with other optimization tools? And would you ever see that Elementor would have in itself its own optimization tool of sorts? Or are you just trying to build those optimizations into Elementor so you don't have to rely as much as like something like Optimize or WP Rocket to combine the CSS? It's almost like you're already thinking about combining those and handling those yourself, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, great question. So I mean, actually, you mentioned a few things as far as the new release. Shiloh is going to give us the answer for that in a minute. But in terms of optimization solutions and Elementor versus like optimization plugins. So we have this kind of silver lining that we're trying to follow of, we don't see value in trying to compete with, some great plugins out there. We really do believe in the power of WordPress, of allowing people to put together a few tools, a few plugins that work together synergetically. So we believe in that, and we try to play. We play along with other plugins, and you can see a lot of examples for that. Starting from Yoast SEO and going through many other things. But we do believe that we have some added value when it comes to optimizing, particularly for Elementor. So we're going to continue focusing on those things, and thus allowing users to kind of get the most out of combining Elementor with complementary plugins. So we're going to try to focus on things that Elementor can do for you, because we have more insight into how your page is composed. We have more information about what your page is made up of, right?
Yeah.
Just a quick example: when you're creating a page with WordPress now, WordPress automatically puts in loading lazy on every image, right? But Elementor may be able to tell which images are above the fold, which is something you mentioned before, and say, in this case, I don't want it to lazy load, because lazy loading images that are above the fold is counterproductive. We want those images not to lazy load. We want them to load right away. So that is the right thing to do for those images. And it might be a little tricky for other plugins to do it. It might be easier for us to kind of make that observation about your page and introduce this optimization. We can also be a little more proactive about certain things, or maybe even kind of highlight maybe some errors from the user responsibility side of things that we mentioned earlier, right? So if we notice that you as a user made a certain decision that might be problematic, we can kind of highlight it, or maybe even try to mitigate for it. We can try to kind of, minimize the impact of a bad decision. But these are kind of things that we're still experimenting.
Yeah, internally, and it's something that is highly.
But I'm just trying to frame the direction that we're going in terms of how we can take it to the next level. So we believe that we can have some more intelligent, optimizations that we can help you. Do as the page builder, as the page editor.
I think that are more. Let's talk about minor features that are rolling out next week or two. Just to sum things up, we have we used up until today we used Elementor. In Elementor, we used JavaScript transpiler named Babel, which converted ES5 JavaScript to ES6 JavaScript to ES5, which created a lot of redundant code inside Elementor files, right? So when this was created to support ancient browsers such as Internet Explorer 11 due to the reason that we dropped support from Internet Explorer, we can allow ourselves to remove this compatibility. And by doing that, we can save up to 200 kilobytes, not up to over 200 kilobytes per page load for every page you visit, regardless if you used widgets, we used a lot of widgets or minor widgets. So this is a major impact coming soon, okay, in version 3.4 Core and 3.4 Pro. It will load, just for example, if we, I don't know if I mentioned it, if you used Elementor 3.3 with all experiments inactive and created a page and put nothing in there, created a page using Elementor, it loaded about 1,000 kilobytes of assets, JavaScript and CSS files. When activating all experiments and upgrading to version 3.4 of Elementor Core and Pro, you load only 280 kilobytes.
Right.
So it's a massive improvement, and it should improve your website performance massively. And other things that were mentioned here, and you also made it, you avoid, Clement said, he or she, sorry, avoid font awesome after learning about performance. So it's something that we are working on, and version 3.4, we are about to introduce something that George worked on, and it's a conversion from font icons to SVG, inline SVG, which is something that reduces the usage of assets being loaded, reduces the response of the server, and many other improvements that you can get from it.
Also, while also making the icons look better too, yeah. which is nice. You know, sometimes performance optimizations come with the cost of, you know, making things kind of a little less nice. Maybe kind of have to maybe optimize an image, compress an image, and it looks a little less nice. But with icons loaded as SVGs, you're really getting a better icon for less, you know. So that's like a big one, you know. That's a big win. So you don't need to have all those CSS files and fonts loaded. You're just gonna have your icon included inline as an SVG element.
One of the things I think worth mentioning is our responsibility as Elementor for releasing in every release we make, we hope and we strive ourselves to improve Elementor, improve performance, and not just performance, but also the value that we provide to our users and the accessibility and all other performance aspects that we want to improve. And I can hope, and we are doing actions to do it, to improve and make Elementor more stable, more faster in every release we make. So in this terms, we implemented several items that we, several mechanisms that we integrated in our CI processes, such as Lighthouse test that runs every code that being sent to Elementor. A Lighthouse test is ran up. We are creating a site, testing it with Lighthouse. If it failed, the code won't get in, or will have to be with a great excuse of why it got in. Okay?
Right.
So, it's
something. Yeah. Basically, if I'm sending a PR or any of the developers are sending a new piece of code that's going to go into Elementor, it's going to get checked for performance, and if it's going to make the performance worse, we're going to have a flag, you know, and we're going to have to address that.
Yeah.
So basically, we're kind of, you can say it's kind of a promise that every Elementor release is going to be more performant than the one before. So I think that's a big message, you know. I think you guys, it's a big takeaway. We're promising every version of Elementor from now on is going to be faster than the one before it, hopefully.
That's awesome. I would love to see like Elementor 2 point something site with all the same content, and then one of the new and improved versions, and like just do a side by side would be crazy awesome.
Yeah, if you track the
we did it by the way. We did
right.
we did a 2.9 versus 3.3, and we saw that in 2.9 we had 60 something points in Lighthouse, and when upgrading to 3.3 and activating all of the experiments, we saw 93 points without doing anything, right? Just loading the template. And this leads me to something, Angela, that worth mentioning. Elementor is a mature product. It's something it's a product that is out there for 5 years, and we have a big responsibility for our users. And if we inflict any damage or pain that is irreversible, it's something that we can't do and won't do. So in this term, we implement all of these mechanisms that we talked about to ensure that the stability stays and remains while improving the progress. That's why we're taking this baby steps and not bringing it all up in one version that will change and do groundbreaking changes.
Right. Yeah. You could release a brand new Elementor, but then yeah. Well, yeah, I'm gonna, we're getting short.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're getting short
Shiloh's
on time.
The gatekeeper on that. Sometimes I want to send my new shiny feature, and Shiloh is like, "Hey, wait a second. No, we can't ship it. We can't.
You're gonna break.
Yeah, we don't want to break anything.
You'll break the internet at this point.
Yeah.
So I want to get to some of the questions here really quick. There's some that are hard because they're not specifically performance related, but I'll also try to answer them. So again, I'm going to ask this question. Do you have a time estimate on 3.4? Like what month, what season, what year? Like
it should go to beta phase next week. As soon as next week. Great. So by the way, we just released 3.3 last week. So we are about to release it next week, hopefully to beta version. And during mid-August, I think it will be released to the general audience.
Yeah, and then in terms of giving users feedback, that was one thing. There was a question about, users can kind of build these crazy layouts that are getting really DOM excessive. Is there any plan to maybe report to the user, like some sort of little, it would be great to have in the editor, just like, this is using 1 million DOMs and be in red, and then yellow and green or something like that. I don't know if there's a way to.
Yeah. So first of all, sure, we can do that. Like what you just offered is one way you can handle it, but we really believe that a good product doesn't need to allow for bad things to happen. So to some extent, we wanted to. Elementor is an open platform, so we can do whatever you want. But we kind of try to fix situations like this by making it much harder for people to do something harmful. So we're going to focus on. In that sense, focus on making it easier to make complex compositions without suffering the consequences of a bloated DOM, which is not so easy to do at this point. But we're very much focused on figuring out ways to introduce new ways of creating compositions.
Right. Like instead of using columns, you could use the advanced position and do a width on your widgets. And that's something kind of hidden. I didn't know about that. And I'm a pretty advanced user. And it took me quite a while to figure out, I could do that. That's better.
So when we introduced that, I don't know how many people thought of, that benefit of it, but that's definitely one way to mitigate that, and we're working on more ways to do that.
Yeah.
And then reducing CSS classes on elements. We talked about divs. Is there a plan to reduce CSS classes?
We already introduced a new methodology of convention.
Okay.
Naming CSS classes, which reduces the length of it. But we haven't made backwards to fix it all. The reason is we're responsible for a lot of sites, and if we will change those sites class names, it will probably in several sites, we don't know how many, will cause them to break because some of them extended by using the selectors or placed custom code that targets this element. And by changing it, we expose our users to this one. So from now on, we are using a much shorter
class name convention.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and I can't talk much about it. You know, I'm kind of like,
yeah.
You know, I'm kind of like trying to be careful not to give away too much because I'm not allowed to say things that, but we are working on some ways that are also going to, you know, are gonna be, are gonna have a much smaller footprint in terms of what's printed on the page. You know, the amount of classes, tags, all that.
But those are not for 3.4, right?
No, they're not for 3.4.
Not for 3.0.
Like,
okay. I mean, there's so many questions. Like, are you working at all with third-party developers who have all their own slew of maybe inefficient widgets? Do you have a partnership or any sort of community thing where you all get together and say, hey, we should all be doing these standards together?
Yeah, I can tell that in the last 1.5 years, we created the partners, our Elementor partners, which are all of the big portion of Elementor developers in the ecosystem, and we see their success as our success, because when extending Elementor and providing more features and more capabilities and doing it the right way and the proper way will benefit our all. It will cause more users to use Elementor. It will cause more users to use Elementor and Elementor Pro and use our services and run better sites and extend their capabilities. We as Elementor can't do everything. We can't do it.
Yeah.
We want to do everything. We want to do and take more and more things and ease the pain that we have as website creators. But we need to choose and pick our battles, and we work alongside them to improve their implementation and expose better developers documentation in terms of API and expose more APIs endpoints and hooks and filters and what needed to do this. Actually, we have our own internal developer relation person.
Yeah, and we have the developer blog too.
Yeah, the developers blog, which we all the time since version 2.7, we update about upcoming deprecations to prevent breaks, and we update about the compatibility tag. That's something that the plugin authors endorsed, and they comply themselves to Elementor and to which version they are compatible with. Yeah, and it's something that improves performance stability.
Right. Well, like utilizing the new conditional CSS or JavaScript loading in their custom widgets and things. It sounds like you'll be addressing that through your documentation and the developers.elementor.com.
So everything we're doing for ourselves, we're also going to allow third party to take advantage of.
Okay. That was mostly the question. Yeah, that's
absolutely. Yeah,
that's perfect.
That's a principle. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's fabulous. And because we all, because so many of us rely on those third-party plugins that we want them to be on board. We really want them to
like Shiloh said, it's a magic cycle. It's we succeed. We create an opportunity for third-party developers to also accommodate for our market, for our users, and then the users get more value from being a part of this ecosystem. So this thing keeps growing. So we wanna facilitate that, and we see that as a key thing for our growth.
Well, we could just talk and talk. I think we're supposed to wrap up about now. I think that's correct, because we're at the hour. I don't know, Tali, if we were going to take any more questions.
Yes. We can take one last question, and the other questions, I will share a link to our hub, which you can post your questions there, and Shiloh or Josh will address them in the next 24 hours. Like this is the
Yeah,
time they
and
will.
I guess I would just, maybe I would end with the question of, what's the, where are you in 5 years from now? And how do you see yourself working with the WordPress ecosystem? There are certainly other builders coming up, Gutenberg's coming up. How do you see yourself playing competitively 5 years from now?
I think we think as Elementor and that WordPress is the best CMS created and is out there right now. It's is powering 30% of the internet. It's something that is noticeable, and we love using Elementor. Elementor as a page builder, as a website builder, not just a page builder, allows extendability and allows more code and allows more customization in terms of this and this way on top of WordPress CMS. We see ourselves as the presentation layer. You can use Elementor to paint and to do anything you want on top of your site. But still, the content management is created by WordPress, and by if you look and talk about Gutenberg is a great solution. Also, is a great tool that allows users to create content and manipulate it, and it uses a block system that is. We're glad that Gutenberg also implemented this structure as well. So it's not something that is nice to have. In 5 years from now, we hope that Elementor will help you design more and more capabilities.
I think if you focus this question on performance, I think we're seeing right now is really kind of the entire industry starting to have a common understanding on how things are done right and what are the core principles of a well-performing website, and you see browsers introducing changes and introducing ways for web developers to make their websites more performant. I can't get into all of the technical details, but the browsers are really delivering a lot of capabilities that were not available before. And then the next step is you have the content management systems like WordPress taking advantage of those things. Mm-hmm. And then we see ourselves as a part of this mutual effort. And as much as it's going to be made more possible to make things more performant, you can count on us to do so, and we will continue to, baby step. You mentioned the word baby step. We're going to continue to responsibly deliver more performance optimizations as we go, and while making sure your websites remain stable and you can, and not having you worry about upgrading.
One more thing is, as in this question, in this context that you mentioned, Angela, is I think that WordPress, by its nature, is an open system and a community-oriented product in CMS, and we love that. And us being here is something that articulates it to this meeting. So we love its ecosystem, we love its community, we love its open source spirit. So it's something that we use and we endorse, and we make others use in these terms. And even our Pro, Elementor Pro, is a GPL compliant product. You can do it, you can use it. So it's something that is we are providing more and more tools to website creators to empower them. One of our values is to empower web creators, and I think this is what we're doing now, and I think that this is what we will do in the next 5 years from now.
We wanted so that people using Elementor will not use it despite some performance implications that come with it. We want people to use Elementor so that they'll get the most performant website.
Yeah.
You know, so we want Elementor to be that good so that people will be like, hey, I could make my website in another way, but I'll do it with Elementor because I want it to be a well-performing website, you know, because Elementor
So
is
you're
doing
gonna
a lot.
you'll get the best of both worlds. You'll get a beautiful website and a website that performs well. So the goal is to have both happening and be highly competitive.
Yeah,
in
not to
both those
have
spaces.
one you know, compromise the other.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it's been so great to talk to you. And I think
Thank you.
I learned a lot in the conversation in terms of just the dedication of Elementor towards performance. And so it's given me, as a person who has my own agency and building sites, to feel more confident in speaking with my clients about why we chose Elementor, why we're going to continue to choose Elementor, and that, hey, hold on, it's going to keep getting better. And for those of you who a lot of these technical terms went over your head, I would say two things you want to look at is just your web hosting. And there's a lot of web hosting forums. Really be critical of your web hosting and really check that carefully. The second is test out the experiments under tools experiments in the Elementor interface, and just be sure to follow other best practices, get on those past webinars about building efficient websites, do your job as responsible web builder to build lean, clean layouts yourself, and then trust that Elementor is doing its job to optimize the output of that to the browser and for the server. And so we all have a role to play in this performance game.
Absolutely.
And we all need to take that up. And it's just been so great to talk to you. I'm so delighted to be able to follow up on our new community hub, which is terrifically awesome, and to see some of these other great questions answered there. And yeah, had a good time.
Angela.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much, Angela.
Yeah,
it's been great being
and
here.
everyone out there with all of your amazing questions. So we will answer all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Angela, for joining us. Thank you, Shilo and Josh. Thank you, everyone who listened for the last hour and 10 minutes. Go to them, ask your questions, start a conversation, and I hope to see you in the event that we have later this week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day or evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.